Technology in Tiruchirappalli in India. She went on to get her Master's of Architecture and Master's of Architectural Engineering degrees from Penn State. And then she was awarded the Henry Adams Medal and Certificate of Merit from the American Institute of Architects during her graduation. Really big deal. Her current role as lead project designer at By Design Architecture and Interiors has her working on high-end residential projects in and around the Bay Area. Her previous roles at Gessler has had her leading design projects for workplaces in the life sciences and technology around the Bay Area and globally. In the architectural community, Madhu is a founding chair of AIA Silicon Valley's Christopher Kelly Leadership Development Program, which is a peer-led program for training architects to be leaders in their industry. She's also involved with the ACE mentorship for high school students interested in architecture, engineering, and construction, and also SF NOMA, National Organization of Minority Architects, where she works for greater diversity and inclusion in her industry. She's also a recipient of the prestigious Architecture Master Prize Honorable Mention and was recently named as one of 100 Women of Influence by the Silicon Valley Business Journal. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome, Madhu. Oh, yeah, I can change slides for you. Sure.
I hope I'm audible. I'm not gently loud enough. Is that okay? Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you, Cheryl, for a wonderful introduction. So I'm going to have a very casual conversation about my journey as a student like you all. I came to the US as a grad student as well, so I'm just going to go over some of the milestones or career journey that I've had so far. So I hope you find it relatable. Go to the next slide. Yeah, I'm originally from India. Like Cheryl mentioned, I did my bachelor's in architecture from India, from IIT Trichy. And it's like a very typical undergrad life where we were having fun with a lot of friends and definitely focusing on a lot of late night projects at architecture school, working on competitions for a lot of the entries. Go to the next slide. So yeah, it's mostly about people, a lot of drafting. Initially, the first year, we still were doing drafting manually. I don't know if you guys know that. But then, yeah, it's just getting to know the industry. That was like the first step. And go to the next slide. Yes. So one of the very important aspects of my undergrad education is definitely people and the things that I learned. But more than that, it's about the opportunities that the college gave me to participate in a lot of these professional competitions or extracurricular activities that are still related to the profession. Yeah, you will be doing your coursework, you'll be doing your assignments, you'll be giving your exams, but at the same time, I'm sure you'll come across a lot of these opportunities that sometimes, if you have the time, you should say yes to because it makes a lot of difference. Right? For example, this is one of the trophies that I got to champion as a second year student in undergrad. It's a national level competition, and I didn't even think about the scale of the project that I'll be working on. I just said yes because it seemed interesting. So we ended up winning the trophy because we didn't think about it so much. We just wanted to do our work and present our projects to the jury, and the jury was very happy with it. That's pretty much what we did. And if you go to the next slide, I also got to do two other competitions in a similar way, just working with people, doing what we do best, not thinking about it in terms of the scale of the project or anything, just giving it a try. So this is one more project where we won on a national level. Can you go to the next slide? So yeah, that is me. Like you all, I did some internships in undergrad and I graduated. Also graduated with distinction, with a gold medal, because I was too much of a nerd. If we go to the next slide, yeah. So that was all a very rosy undergrad life, and we still had a lot of challenges in terms of exams and design reviews. If you know anybody in architecture or interior design, you know about design reviews. But I was almost done with it for 5 years and then graduated. But my next chapter was to go work for a while because I didn't have very clear idea of what to do next, to go to grad school, specialize in anything, but I definitely wanted to go on field and work and see what the profession is about. So yeah, thankfully I had an opportunity to move to Dubai from India. We had a college career fair and I interviewed for a firm in Dubai and got selected. So that was my very first job out of school. It was a little scary because that was my first time even taking a flight. I didn't have a passport before that. So that was the first time I got a passport and I got moved to Dubai in my first job. So this is definitely one of the very important aspects of my career because I got to work for a very small 30 people firm. It's not a big corporate firm, right? So I had people from the college who already went there. So it was more like a family extension from college. So we got to work on some interesting projects from start to finish. So I was mostly focusing on architecture and interiors. Like the rendering that you see here is something I designed for a hospital in Sharjah. So this is just a reception of that particular area. So I worked there for about 3 years where I got to learn the whole life cycle of architectural design projects. Like how do you present a concept? How do you talk to a client? Or how do you render such beautiful images, not just render it, but also actually build it. So these are some of the experiences I learned in my very first job. So these are more images. As you can see, I was doing a lot of healthcare projects, some hospitals, clinics. Yeah, I really like my job because it's a combination of a lot of conceptual and logical thinking. So you have to first visualize the space and how it's going to get planned, how it's going to get built. So there are a lot of those multi-disciplinary aspects to it. That was fun. Yeah. Apart from healthcare, I was also working on some office projects, like the one you see on the right. It's a corporate headquarters for a big corporate group in Dubai called Landmark, and also got to do some smaller projects like a restaurant or a retail store and things like that. So I was there for 3 years, and actually it was a really good learning experience for me. But I wanted to explore more after being in Dubai for 3 years, working for interiors mostly, and also wanted to get my master's. I did consider Europe and United States, but United States was more convincing because I will also have an opportunity to work here after I graduate. So yeah, that was my next step, grad school. Yeah, I started at Penn State. One of the main reasons for me to choose Penn State was I got an assistantship for 3 semesters out of 4 semesters, and I saved up for my 4th semester fee during my work. So I wanted to do this myself without getting any help from my parents, and we weren't able to afford even if not for the scholarship. So I was very fortunate to get the scholarship from Penn State. Yeah, so I was doing my master's, but I was also working as a teaching assistant for design studios because I had more experience doing interior design back in Dubai. So yeah, again, there are some projects. I will not go into the details of it, but again, it's grad school, a lot of projects, and this is a project I did in Pennsylvania. It's a mountain bikers resort using shipping containers. It was a fun project to work on. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this is another project we did for a museum. It's a hypothetical museum for Edgar Allan Poe. And this also won the Architecture Master Prize under the student category. So I'm very proud of this project. Yeah. So moving to United States was a big step, not just because I'm moving to the next step in my career. When it comes to architecture or construction, Dubai or India works very differently than United States. So I had to learn everything from scratch. For example, building materials that people use in the US or the building codes in the US are all different. So I had to start my career from scratch doing an internship. But I got an opportunity to intern at Gensler. They're one of the biggest architecture firms in the US. So I did an internship with them in San Diego. This is one of the projects that we did during that internship. Next slide. Grad school again gave me a lot of opportunities, right? Again, I'll come back to the same point of saying yes to things, in spite of a lot of things that you might already have on the table. This is a picture from Greenville 2018, where I won a grant to go and attend this conference in Chicago, because they really want students to get involved in the green building community. Go to the next slide. Similarly, they had a lot of different opportunities for women in the industry. This is one of the programs from SOM. That's a firm that designed Burj Khalifa in Dubai. They do a lot of the high-rise buildings. So they have a program for women emerging students or professionals in the industry. I got an opportunity to attend that. We go to the next slide. Yeah, and again, got to meet a lot of diverse set of people, know their stories and points of view, which is all very, very new for me. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so grad school was about a lot of projects, work, people, making friends, but also it was about travel, because as an architect or a designer, you should definitely travel to get inspired. And being in US gave me the opportunity to go and see some of these contemporary masterpieces by architects. So that's a Falling Water by Frank Lloyd Wright. It's a very interesting house, and this is Mies van der Rohe's IIT Chicago. Again, one of the very important modern architecture buildings. Yeah, again, when I was in the West Coast for my internship, I got to visit LA. There's a Walt Disney Concert Hall. I'm sure a lot of people have been here. So this is that, and this is the Broad Museum. Again, when you do a lot of work, most likely you will get recognized. It's not that you're working for the recognition, but when you get that in return, you always feel good about yourself. That gives you that a little bit of validation that, okay, I did a lot of work, but at the same time, I'm getting recognized. So these are some of the awards that Cheryl already talked about during my grad school. So yeah, my internship went really well. So I also got my full time at Gensler. So I moved to San Diego from Pennsylvania. I always wanted to focus on the interior side of buildings, even though my background is architecture, because I really like working on the planning aspect of it, choosing materials on that scale. So I don't know how many of you have the background in interiors, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I do, and then probably we can move further. Yeah. Go to the next slide. So anything that you see inside the building is technically, or it should be designed by somebody who's thinking about how the user is going to use the space, how are they going to move around the space, what are the material on the wall or floor or ceiling, how this building is going to be lit, and all of that, right? So that is what I do on an everyday basis. Go to the next slide. So these are some of the examples of interior design projects. It can be a residence, it can be a train station, it can be an office building, or it can be a gym. Everything is designed around you. Yeah. Again, I didn't have an opportunity to work on a lot of this, like educational or community, but I did work on the first 3 and 4. Working with different typologies of projects lets you understand people from a lot of points of view. So these are some of the broad spectrum of the interior design field. Yeah. So what makes a good space and a bad space? You might not realize this when you move around the space, but sometimes in a very well-designed space, you might feel very comfortable, right? The way you sit, the way you move around, your wayfinding is easier. You have really good lighting that's soft to your eyes, that doesn't affect you. Those are some of the psychological things that affect you. When it's a good space, you feel good being in that space. If it's bad, you're going to have difficulties. You're going to probably walk a lot, or you're not going to have good furniture, and or you're going to have glare lighting on your face and things like that. Yeah, it's also a lot of sketching and planning on paper, where each room is going to go, how are you going to move around the space, whether it's code compliant, fire compliant, those are few things we worked on. Yeah, those are some of the technical aspects. We can also do some fun aspects like working on a color palette, material, choosing materials, how you want to visualize your space. These are some of the fun exercises we do. Yeah, working with materials, you put together a material board for a room. So these are the materials that goes in a space, and how's it all going to come together. These are just some examples of floors, walls, and ceilings. Probably I'll just skim that through. I'm not going to explain more about it, just for you to get an idea of what exactly is that I do. Yeah. Each and every wall or floor can be all treated differently. It's not just about the way it looks good, it's also about the functional aspect of it. If you're in a conference room, you want the acoustics to be good in that room, the lighting to be good in that room. So some of the materials that you choose is going to affect that. Yeah. The ceilings can be fun sometimes. You would have definitely noticed a fun ceiling in a lot of public spaces, libraries, or even homes, so depending on how well that is designed. Yeah, furniture again is a very important aspect. It might not feel so, but a lot of your ergonomics is related to furniture, so it's very important to design that accordingly. In today's world, as much as you design space, the information that goes on your space is also very important. Like in airports, you need to have good wayfinding for you to move around the space. Those are some more details to interior design. Lighting again is one of my favorite parts. You can go extensive in retail, public spaces, but you still need a really good lighting in a space like this also, right? Yeah, so these are mostly about artificial lighting, but also natural lighting. Yeah, again, acoustics part of it, the way you specify anything on the ceiling, on the wall, or any extra accessory, depending on your acoustical needs. For a classroom and a conference room, it's going to be very different. So those are some things you need to understand before you design a space. Yes. So we are storytellers, we're project decision makers. We also coordinate the project and make sure whatever you have on your board actually gets built. So we work with architects, developers, lighting engineers, MEP engineers, contractors, furniture consultants, many more. So if project is getting built, it's coordination with all of these professions coming together. So that's only when it's built successfully. Yeah. For you to be in design, it's not just about you being creative, but also you being empathetic to the client or the user who's using the space. You also need to learn some softwares, which is pretty intuitive. It's not that bad. But yeah, the more you learn about construction, problem solving, or some of the other aspects you learn when you're on the job. Yeah, these are just some the ways we represent designs through sketches in the previous slide, through digital renderings, giving the space a color, the texture, or what the material is going to be, and all of that in visual format before it gets built. Again, if you're in construction, architecture, or design, these are just different phases in which we work. Programming is where actually we get the project parameters, we work on schematic design, and then we develop it, go for permitting, get the construction documents done, and get it built. So it's just the life cycle of the project. So I'm just getting through some of these phases of project. This is where it's in construction. So yeah, I got the first job. I was doing all of that, and I graduated in 2019. I was on an F1 visa. I don't know how many people are on that. So I had my very first setback professionally, because till then I was very happy with whatever I was doing. I never had much challenges. Probably getting a scholarship for grad school was challenging, but beyond that, it was smooth ride, I would say. But when COVID happened, they just had to lay off the whole department, and I was part of that. And I was an F1 visa, and I didn't even have an opportunity to go back to India. It was more like I was stuck here without a job. But then, go to the next slide. That was my very first setback in the US, and I had to find another job. And I found my next job in exactly 32 days. I had about 90 days to find a job, and it was during peak COVID. It was April 2020. So that's when I realized, okay, yeah, my job was very important, but definitely I should have branding for myself. Like, who am I beyond my job title, right? So I started working towards my personal branding. I still do all the great projects. These are some of the as-built pictures of my projects in Bay Area and San Diego, where I worked extensively. So yeah, these are still my projects, and it's still a very big part of my identity. But beyond that, also, I wanted to do something more. So yeah, I started getting involved with a lot of organizations and try to understand what exactly is my calling, or where my mission is, and how I can contribute to that mission. Yeah, I started getting involved in a lot of leadership activities within our profession. Yeah. These are some of the events or awards for which I decided to be on the design jury and help people recognize good designs within the industry, right? So I started really small, doing smaller awards, like volunteering my time with, if you know, AIA is like American Institute of Architects. I started volunteering with them in very small roles, and eventually I worked my way up to be on design juries for some of the very big national and international awards. So the one is AIA National Awards, and the Frame Awards is from Netherlands, and Neocon is a national furniture event in Chicago. So these are some of the events for which I was a design jury. Yeah, this is where Neocon generally happens. It happens every year. So you have the best national, international furniture design. Any product design gets exhibited in this particular conference. So it was a good way for me to know the industry, what is happening in recent trends, and also judge them for the design, functionality, and all of that. Also started pursuing some of the awards. Like I said, recognition is not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, it is going to give you that instant validation, but it's also a result of years of hard work that you have put in the profession. So I think these are some of the good additions to your overall profile, if you want to pursue that. Yeah, these are some of the ones that I got recently. The Women of Influence from Silicon Valley Business Channel. Being somebody of influence is not just about you sitting and doing your job, but also giving back to the profession and the community. So, I currently serve serve on the board of AIA California and AIA Silicon Valley, where this is a professional organization for architects and designers, where we do knowledge sessions, we try to create awareness about sustainability. So these are things that I do outside of my job, since I'm on the board of AIA California. I also put together a leadership development program for emerging professionals in the industry, where a lot of the people in architecture, unless they don't work for a very big firm, they don't have a pathway to leadership or bridge some of the gaps that they would learn in a business school, right? Like how to start your own firm, how to do business development or marketing, or how to sell your services to a client. So this program helped them do all of that. Yes. So also you're meeting people from different walks of life. So I know people with 50 plus years of experience to just someone right out of school. So it's good for you to have that network of people, the support system, for any kind of questions that you may have, for mentorship, for you to just learn from them. It's a great way to do that. So this is again some of the speaking and engagements that I did beyond my work. So I'm very passionate about building and designing more sustainable for the future. So I have my lead accreditation, WELL and FitWell, that focuses on the wellness aspect of design. So after getting that, I try to implement that in my design projects, but at the same time, I've also spoke about the importance of this through some of the panel discussions and workshops and things like that. Yeah, it could be a little tricky topic for today. Yeah, but also since I'm somebody who came from a different country, and I'm a person of color, and I'm a woman, so it's sometimes not very straightforward for people coming from such backgrounds. So I definitely wanted to give back to the profession through some of these initiatives. So I'm very involved with the WIA, which is Women in Architecture Committee. We do a lot of events promoting women in the industry, women leadership, and giving them the mentorship that they need to go to the next level in their profession. Apart from that, I also did a lot of interviews through AIA, talking to a lot of these people, highlighting some of the very important issues in the district, right? Somebody who's pursuing licensure as an emerging professional, what are their concerns? Somebody who's doing some completely different from architecture, like an alternate career path, how are they doing it? And how we still live in a world where we have a pay gap between male and female architects, and how is somebody tackling that? So these are some of the important questions and perspectives that I learned through this interview from a lot of people in the industry. Apart from that, yeah, again, mentoring the next generation of people is also very important, and it gives me personal satisfaction because 10 years ago where I was is very different from what I am today, and definitely that has been a result of education and the importance of education in my life. So me giving back to the next generation of people is one of the very important aspects of my life. Next slide. I'm not sure if you've heard of this program called ACE Mentorship. It is for high school students if they are interested in pursuing any profession within the ACE industry, which is architecture, construction, or engineering. So we do a weekly session with them. We spend about 2 hours, get them introduced to all the fields in the industry, and help them with scholarships extra so that they can go to college with scholarships. So it's a great program if you want to encourage anybody to get involved. If you go to the next slide, again, these are some of the other programs that I'm interested in and doing. NOMA is for middle school students and for minority architects. So this is like a summer camp for middle school students where we introduce them to architecture. Next slide. Yeah, again, these are some of my travel slides. I still continue to do that and learn from all the inspiring buildings we have around us. Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, so these are some slides I had. I will just go through. Yeah, just go through this. Yeah. Yeah, it's more about what I learned through my journey. So you are definitely allowed to dream whatever you want, even whatever. It's just if it feels right for you, you should just do it. And yeah, next one. Show up every day. I know some days you don't want to, but working on some small steps can actually lead to something bigger. We go to the next slide and say yes to more opportunities. I'm not saying you should get burnt out, but definitely at least try doing it and see how it goes. Be adaptable, create your own path. You don't have to stick to the same career ladder. You can just create your own path doing different things in your own timeline. Be resilient, again, yeah, embrace challenges. Sometimes it could also be better opportunities. Just make sure you see it that way. I feel like you're going to get good at something. You might as well get good at something you enjoy. So pick that really, really cautiously. Yeah. So once you build the confidence and niche, I'm sure you will not worry about a lot of things in life. Yeah. And as you go through this, it's also important for you to value professional and personal relationships, because once you build that network, they are going to be like your support system and backup whenever something goes wrong. Yeah, you don't have to have everything figured out or planned, just figure it out as you go. Because sometimes when you don't have a plan, it turns out to be one of the good things, because you don't know what is there for you. Yeah, that's it. And have fun a little bit. I would suggest have a very good balance between fun and work, which I didn't do much, so I'm trying to do it now. Yeah, just a quick advice. Yeah.
Or I guess when you're working and like designing and like working on the interior, how often do you like sketch something by hand? Because I saw you said you use like Revit and like CAD, and I think that's like kind of more normal now. So I was just kind of wondering, how often do you actually sketch?
I do sketch a lot in the concept stage when we're still doing the floor plan, or when you're planning the space or how is it going to look in 3D. My initial instinct is to do it on a trace paper. It might not be great. I mean, it might not look like a good drawing, but for you to put your ideas, the first thing is sketching. I would say I do it 30% of the time out of 100. I don't get to do it a lot because you also have to get that sketch. Your job is to make that sketch into a reality, so there's a lot more steps involved. So, but that 30% is definitely fun. Yeah.
Good, Derek.
I was just going to ask, when you talk about aesthetics and functionality, how do you balance the scales for those two criteria when you think about something?
I think, yeah, it's just portions a lot. Aesthetics is definitely important to a lot. It depends on the client, right? So we cannot compromise on things like code, like ADA or fire. Those are very important for building to get built, to work functionally. So that's our baseline. We definitely do that. But what we do beyond that is where aesthetic comes in. So not compromising on that, but building on that with the aesthetics. That I would say it comes with a lot of experience. The more you get inspired by your surroundings, nature, and the buildings. So I think for me, it has developed over a period of time. it just is for some people, they're really creatively born. It might come to them naturally, but yeah, it just takes a lot of experience for you to do a lot of trial and error, and then you get better at it.
And do you get inspiration from nature by any chance? Like,
Yes, in a lot of projects, depending on what the project is, yeah, definitely.
More questions?
You have a lot of awards and you've had a lot of opportunities to go to symposia, et cetera. And I was wondering if maybe you could speak to our students about how you found those opportunities. Are they things that you were searching out yourself, or maybe a faculty member suggested, or a friend suggested? Like, how do you come across these opportunities that are co-curricular and have helped you build your career and your recognition?
Yes, definitely. When I was in school, undergrad and grad, definitely my professors have been very encouraging. They will always come up with a list of things that students could take part of, right? Like, they encourage us to do things, giving us feedback. So that's just a starting point, and I was always drawn to those opportunities as a student. But after school, it's pretty much on my own. So it's depending on your interests, what you're drawn towards. For example, I had to do a lot of things after school to understand what I actually like doing more, right? I was volunteering with the Sustainability Forum. I was doing mentoring students, and I was also doing a lot of other things. But I was drawn to these few opportunities that focuses on design, for example, going to competitions and judging people's work, because that gave me an opportunity to expand my experience beyond what I do. For example, I was doing a lot of commercial work. Now I do residential. I never get to do an airport or a museum much. But when I go to these forums, I get to learn about them. So it just is out of my personal interest. And generally, when you follow these organizations, in Instagram, for example, that's where I find most of my opportunities, or LinkedIn. Like since it's a design community, they're very active on Instagram, but also LinkedIn. So those two platforms, you just have to be on the lookout for the dates before which you should apply. Just be a little more prepared. Then yeah.
So yeah, like how do you get connected with Frame Magazine to be a judge for their award cycle?
Yes. Oh, Frame was a big one. When I was at Gensler, they had an open call for jurors. I had done some smaller competition jury before, like AIA's national, and I was really fascinated by frames. So I just applied for it. I didn't even think about if I'll get, because I was out of school. I had about 8 years of experience when I was doing it. But these big international magazines, they also want different voices in the table, right? They have somebody with 50 years of architectural experience, but they also want somebody who has like 8 years, who's still new to the profession, because so that you have diverse perspectives among the panel. So that's how they're looking at it now. So I think that's a good thing for me to learn. Yeah. So most of the times I just apply. If I meet 80% of the criteria, I just apply, and if I get it, I get it. That's it.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how beneficial it was for you to go to grad school. Because I'm pretty sure some of the students here, I'm not sure what their plans are, but maybe they will go to grad school at the grad, maybe not. But just want you to kind of talk about that experience a little bit. Just how beneficial it was for you to do it versus not doing it.
Okay, definitely. I can talk about it from an architecture standpoint, since
Right.
I can relate to that. So I had a really good job for 3 years. I was growing into a role. They even offered me a managerial position, but I was more of a student who was going to school, getting my grades, getting all my extracurriculars done, then going to a job, doing everything is given to me, but I never had an opportunity to explore beyond that. So I always had this urge to do something, travel somewhere and learn more about different culture. And I was confident to do that once I started working. So definitely that was my motivation to go to grad school. I didn't expect much from grad school. I just wanted to have a different experience. But fortunately, grad school was very welcoming with a lot of opportunities, and especially if you have some professional experience, you have an edge over some of the other students who are just coming out of undergrad, because you've seen both academic and professional world to some extent. So it was easy for me to grab those opportunities and work on it. So when you're a student who was just focusing on all the fun part of it, so yeah, I just took advantage of all the opportunities that they had. And I came here only for my Master of Architecture. After my second semester, I worked out a plan with my grad advisor between architecture and architectural engineering, and I finished both the degrees in like 2 years. So it was a little stressful, but I learned a lot out of it. So yeah, definitely, it was worth 2 years. Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions?
How do having like knowledge of both architectural design and materials?
So my engineering it's called architectural engineering, so it's not very much away from my profession. We still learn structures and MEP, structural engineering and mechanical electrical plumbing it's like a minor in architecture program. But what I did in architectural engineering was more focused on managing construction. It's called construction management. I really wanted to get these 2 degrees because in the future, if I want to run my own firm, I should be able to design, but also I should have the basics of construction and managing construction so that I can do the design build projects myself. So it's not completely alien to architecture, it was a little related, so it was not difficult for me. Yeah, it's not very technical like other streams of engineering.
Alright, any other questions? I have one. How do you think the pandemic has changed how people think about interiors?
Oh yeah, definitely. Interiors has evolved over time. Some of the 70s to 80s buildings, see, they only focus more on the exterior aspect of it, and the interior is interior is not it's not a great part of it because it's just about how it looks from outside, right? But through a lot of productivity studies in workplace or even in schools, your interior environment has a lot of impact on how you perform or how you learn or how you live in a space. So that's changed over times, and especially with the pandemic, it's just not about how aesthetically pleasing your interior is, but it is also about how much it is good for your mental health, for the wellness. Like you have big windows and a lot of access to green spaces, or you having a lot of natural light within the building. Those are few things that are starting to be more important. For example, a lot of these tech companies we used to work with, they need something in their building so that their employees come and work in the office instead of because you're very comfortable at home, right? If you're actually going to office and work, it should have some rewards in return. So you see Apple Park, you see Google's headquarters, all done by some of the star architects, and the interiors. They've spent a lot of money, but also they're trying to create a lot of value in terms of wellness for you to come and collaborate in those spaces. So yeah, and this was only being done in healthcare projects before, where wellness is a very important component. But now they're trying to do it in all the other spaces where you are supposed to go work or be productive or learn or things like that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I